I'm going to go over the hypergain, and I'm only going to go over two things because this unit is so similar to the regular high gain. This kind of picks up where the high gain left off at 100, except you have to boost this one all the way up to 61. Let me check actually real fast. The high gain, I can only boost up to 100, but the hyper gain, apparently I can boost it up to 120. I don't really understand why that is. So I have a sine, and let's look at it through a spectrum analyzer. And I'm going to show you what the distortion is like with the high gain at full. So here's the high gain, the previous plugin that we checked out. And it always resets when you click out of the program. So you can see that the second harmonic is right at the green line, and then we are right at about 10K. There we go. So now I have the cursor exactly right there. So I'm going to turn that off, then turn on my hyper gain. And you can see we're right there again with the amount of harmonics, except it's a bit more smooth at the top end instead of having that dip. I actually did try to mimic that dip with the EQ. And if I drag it down just a bit, we can kind of mimic that dip. You switch back to the high gain. Close, maybe it could be more accurate, but nonetheless, that dip doesn't really do us any service when we try to put something through the distortion unit, so I'm just going to leave it how it is. And I'll go ahead and play a drum loop so we can actually hear the differences between the high gain and the hyper gain, which are pretty striking, actually. So let me play the loop. That's high gain. Now hyper gain. I'm going to switch back and forth between them a few times. So hyper gain has a bit more low end, it sounds like, whereas high gain is more top end oriented. The other thing that I want to show you is the the amount of sustain that's added to a sound just from distortion alone. So I have a little analyzer here, and this thing has an RMS meter. I have another one in Cubase somewhere, but let's just use this one for now. This is fine. So when I play the drum loop, our RMS meter is hovering around -24, maybe a little bit higher. And now when I throw on the hyper gain, look at where the average volume is at. Sorry about that. It's just resting at -24 without wavering as much. You can also see how much of the dynamic range it takes away. That's pretty common for all distortions. They add a lot of sustain and then they shave off attacks. If you just think about how a guitarist with a fuzz pedal, a guitar, just a single note by itself dry, has a pretty sharp attack and rapid decay. But if you put a guitar through a fuzz pedal or any kind of intense distortion, it's going to add a lot of sustain. And so that's the way this distortion works. This is actually probably the closest distortion algorithm to fuzz that there is in the Kronos. Let's go ahead and put the drive all the way up, and let's look at the average meters. This is for the hyper gain, of course. So yeah, it's pretty intense. Let's look at the peak volume. So right now the peak volume is -2.5 apparently. So with the hyper gain, let me reset this. So we're all the way down. Even though it sounds kind of louder, we're all the way down at -17 instead of like -2 or whatever it was just at. I'll need to boost the gain all the way up to get back to -2. Not all the way up, but a lot. I think it sounds pretty badass. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, -2.4. It's not uncommon to actually put a soft clipper, which is nothing like hyper gain, but to put a soft clipper on the mastering in your mastering signal chain to squeeze a little bit more volume out of the mix. So that's it for this video. I hope it was okay, but yeah, I'll just see you on the next one. Actually, I'm going to focus on karma tomorrow, so yeah.